Hi, my name is Andrew Nouwen, and I'm the writer for the blog called The Loving Room, and I'm here at Church of the Good Shepherd in downtown Kitchener, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Reverend John Maine, and thank you so much, John, for joining us today.
I'm delighted to.
Wonderful. Tell me a little bit about the history of Church of the Good Shepherd here in Kitchener. For instance, when the building was constructed, and what was before Church of the Good Shepherd here.
Well, the building itself is older than it looks. It's built in a very traditional style, but it actually was raised up in 1935. Mm-hmm. It's the fourth building we've had built in Kitchener. Our first goes back to the 1840s, also downtown on land we bought from Joseph Schneider of the Schneider House. Okay. So that gives you some idea of the roots we have in this community. Before this particular building was built, it was the Van Rose Mansion. And for that reason, the caretaker's house right beside the church is actually the old coach house of the mansion. And if you look at the lines of it carefully enough, you can see where the horses were kept and so forth, and the servants' quarters and so on. In fact, the iron railing around this building is from the Van Rose Mansion and is a designated historical artifact.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well,
dating from 1883, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. I've been here at the church for probably about three or four services now, and good friends with someone on the ministerial team who is actually taping this, and so it's good to know some of the background of the church and Swedenborgianism, if that's the correct term.
Sure.
And we'll get into that as well. But just talking a little bit about this particular congregation for the first part. How long have you been a minister at Good Shepherd?
6 years now.
Okay. And it's my understanding that you were part of this congregation before you were minister?
That's right. I joined the church 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And rapidly just got really involved, was really taken by both the community and the beliefs. It just felt very welcoming to me. And I ended up being consecrated as a lay leader. My goodness, that's about 12 years ago.
Okay.
And then when I was ordained as a minister, I received a call to serve our church out in Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay.
And so I've been out there, and then I came back here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. For 6 years then?
Yes, 6 years now.
Great. Yeah. Now, this is where we get into just a little bit of theology. Actually, we could get into quite a bit of theology. Is Church of the Good Shepherd a Christian church?
Oh, the answer to that is we're a new kind of Christian church.
Would you like to elaborate on that?
Sure. Definitely Christian. I mean, if you were to come to one of our services, you'd have no doubt. We have Bible readings. We pray to the Lord being the Lord Jesus Christ. We observe, by and large, the standard Christian calendar, Christmas and Easter and so forth. But on the other hand, we have, Swedenborgianism is a way of understanding the faith, and the way of understanding especially the Bible, the Scriptures, such that we are in effect universalist Christians.
Okay.
We see the good news of Jesus being embodied in all faiths, all traditions, in all ways, so that we have a more inclusive and global perspective than a lot of our fellow believers.
Okay, and very interesting to find a Christian universalist church within this city. Now there are a number of others as well, which I hope to be interviewing other ministers, but you're the first, so I'm very glad to speak with you about this. And so that answers my next question, which is: do you believe that the Good Shepherd Swedenborgian path is the only pathway to God?
No, there is no one path to God. There are many paths. It's an axiom of Swedenborgian faith that God loves diversity.
Okay.
And God provides for many ways to come to Him. God is such a vast, such a greater than we can imagine always, that it's only natural that there are just so many different ways that we can approach God.
Okay.
And so we would welcome and honor all different paths.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Now, tell me a little bit about some of your key ministries here at Good Shepherd that you run out of the church, or ministries that might use the church. What is Good Shepherd all about, rather than just Sunday morning services?
Well, besides Sunday morning worship, I'm very proud of the fact that we offer wedding, baptism, and soon memorial services to the general public.
Mm-hmm.
From our point of view, all people are children of God, whatever path they walk. And so where, unfortunately, other places of worship may turn people away, we do not. We welcome everyone. We perform a lot of weddings where people come from different faith traditions or have none and feel very welcome in this place.
Okay.
And so that's an important ministry for us.
Mm-hmm.
Other important ministries involve outreach into the community. We are big supporters of Mary's Place.
Yes.
The shelter for homeless and battered women and families, and also for Marillac Place for single moms facing a lot of challenges. Also the soup kitchen. You'll always find us serving the Easter dinner every year at the soup kitchen. Individual members are big supporters of the Out of the Cold program. In a whole variety of ways, we're out there. Also, we are in the midst of getting ready to launch a ministry that we're really excited about, and that's called Harmonia, Center for Life and Growth.
Tell me about that.
That is a holistic spirituality center. I think what people have most on their minds and hearts these days is discerning a way to live. What is a way to live that I can be a really full, decent, caring, loving, free human being? I'm not interested in wearing your label as opposed to their labels, or believing only this but not that, so much as what about all of me? How I live, what I eat, where I go, and so on. Where do I find the Spirit in all these things? So we want to provide to the community a center which can answer some of those questions. A center that would be holistic in terms of body, mind, and spirit. It would be a center that would cover such things as healing and spiritual practices.
Okay.
Everything from Reiki and Tai Chi to labyrinth walking and meditation and centering prayer, healing touch, and so on, to things like the spirituality of food and land.
Yes.
What it means, what we put in our bodies and why it matters and where it comes from and who grows it and so forth. The spirituality of all those things. And simply learning about community. I think the greatest reality for people nowadays, to me, is loneliness. People are lonely. People are isolated. We all are to some extent. So Harmonia is about trying to help foster and build up community and help people acquire the skills to connect with their neighbors and build groups, meaningful groups together.
Okay.
So we want to do all those things.
Wow. Thank you for such a thorough explanation of it, because I've heard a little bit about Harmonia.
Yeah.
Wonderful, beautiful name, by the way. But thank you for the information about Harmonia. Now let's move a bit away from Church of the Good Shepherd as an individual church. And the first thing people think when they hear the word Swedenborg probably is what is that? What is that? And then the second one is obviously they're Swedish.
Yes.
So does Swedenborgianism have anything to do with Sweden?
Well, technically yes, because if you hear a name like Emanuel Swedenborg, obviously where does that man come from? Well, of course, yes, he was born in Sweden.
Yeah.
But in fact, no, this isn't a sort of an ethnically based church or community. I'm not Swedish.
Yes.
I don't speak Swedish. Beautiful country, beautiful culture, but no, I don't. It's Swedenborgian is to Emanuel Swedenborg like Lutheran is to Martin Luther.
Okay.
It's a reference to the original inspiring figure, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had to in a few sentences, I'm not limiting you, by the way, but tell, this is a big question, but to people who have no idea who Emanuel Swedenborg was, what time period was he from, and what set him apart from other Christian theologians?
Well, Emanuel Swedenborg, we're talking approximately the early mid-18th century, so 1700s. We're talking in terms of our culture, the dawn of the modern age, the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, the dawn of a time in our Western civilization when the notion became popularized that we were going to be masters of the universe. The world was what our five senses could discern, and we could manipulate and control that world to our own benefit and create a paradise on earth. And this was the promise of science and progress. Swedenborg was one of the most eminent scientists of his day. If you go to the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., you'll see his model for an aeroplane. Okay. He left, we're talking the early 1700s. This is a man who was a Leonardo da Vinci of his time. He left designs, detailed designs for submarines, airplanes. He was discerning a nuclear theory of physics. I mean, he was Europe's leading neuroanatomist, a brilliant, brilliant man. And yet, he had this vision from the Lord to the effect that ultimate reality wasn't material. It wasn't what all his peers, all the other Western scientists and the philosophes of that age were saying. No, that ultimate reality was spiritual and not physical. And that what you needed to do was discern that overarching reality that binds everything together, which is spirit, and live in accordance with the flow of that spirit and the purpose of that spirit, which is love, and in order to have a real human life and to make sense of the world. So as soon as he announced that this was what he was about, and this is where science really fit into a larger spiritual context, he got dropped like a hot potato, and he basically disappeared off the cultural radar. And so nowadays, not many people have heard of Emanuel Swedenborg. People were quite dismayed, his peers and so on were quite disappointed. They felt this was a regressive kind of move and so on. Obviously science and material reality, matter was what you could count on, and progress would come from that. And so to my mind, what Swedenborg did, why he was called, he provides a kind of bridge for us to get over ourselves in that modern age when we thought we'd be masters of the universe. Because we've come to a place now in our Western development where I think we're deeply disappointed by science, deeply disappointed by materialism. They haven't worked out. They haven't provided the paradise on earth. They've given us many benefits, but we also live in peril of our futures and our existence nowadays with what science and technology have done and how we've used them. We have many things, but little wisdom. So this is where Swedenborg is worth discovering again, to discern a wisdom for a way forward now that we've disappointed ourselves in that fanciful dream of being the center of everything. We're not the center of everything. We're part of something greater.
Now, when you say then, though, from what you just said, someone could construe that as Swedenborgianism being anti-science.
No, and it's not. Swedenborg deeply valued rational inquiry. But he felt that rational inquiry, thoughtful understanding, and I think today's modern ecologists would very much support this, and the scientists of the so-called new physics, is that when you look deeply into what the nature of reality, you see that reality is a web. Reality is a joining of everything together. Mm-hmm. And in that context, we're not it. We're not the center of it, but we are part of it.
Okay.
And so Swedenborg would say that science has its proper place, but not the place that people were giving it in his day.
Okay. Okay, thank you for answering that. Question: How widespread is Swedenborgianism in the world? Now, we hear, obviously Martin Lutheranism is everywhere.
Yeah.
It seems. But how about Swedenborgianism? How many Swedenborgians roughly are there in the world, and where are they concentrated?
Well, to be fair, there's really two answers to that question. The numbers question, the numbers part of it at least, is it's a small movement, but it is worldwide. And like most Christian churches, most of our members these days, our biggest churches, are in Africa.
Yep.
So what does that come to worldwide? Is that 50, 100,000 folks, something like that? It's quite small.
Okay.
On the other hand, Swedenborgians, and this is from Swedenborg's writings, believe that they are not the elect. It's not like if you're not Swedenborgian again, then you're out of luck.
Yes.
Swedenborgians talk about the new church. The new church meaning not just specifically Christian, but a new church that is a new stage of human consciousness, and that is happening in people all over the world. And in that sense, I would say that the numbers of Swedenborgians, people who aren't even aware they're Swedenborgian, but they are part of this new consciousness, is in the many millions.
Okay.
This is the exciting thing about living today. You see that everywhere.
Yes. Okay. Now, I guess I would say, what is your cooperation? Is there a lot of cooperation between Swedenborgians and other faith communities?
Mm-hmm, very much. Because we appreciate that diversity and respect other paths to God. This church is represented in Interfaith Grand River, the ecumenical forum for different religious traditions. We've been a member of the KW Council of Churches for years. Just this past year, we had a Muslim woman come and preach. Mm-hmm. I don't mean meet us after the service, but I mean preach in the service. And the same, we had a Jewish woman come and preach, and we'll have others come as well. That's part of what it means to be Swedenborgian.
Wonderful. Now, I guess two more questions.
Sure.
There is, and we can just touch on this briefly. Mm-hmm. You said there's about like the Swedenborgianism and sort of the values and ideas could put it into the millions. Swedenborgianism, but that technically there's maybe 50 to 100,000 worldwide. Mm-hmm. Now there are, what I understand, there is a liberal and a conservative sort of side to Swedenborgianism, mm-hmm. and there are sort of two different sects.
Right.
Briefly, if you could just tell me what are some of the sort of theological differences that sort of set you apart and make you different that way.
This is not easy to suss out. I think the more conservative branch of the Swedenborgian family tends to see the writings of Swedenborg, from my perception, a little more narrowly, a little more rigidly as its own kind of testament, its own kind of revelation. And so, since one of Swedenborg's major spiritual metaphors is that of marriage and the connection of male and female, from that flows, or seems to have flowed, a more conservative kind of social philosophy.
Sure.
Where gender roles are a little more fixed. The more conservative Swedenborgians, for example, won't ordain women. They, as far as I understand it, do not approve of being gay, mm-hmm. And so forth. So they are. They also feel that, or there is a tendency for them to identify themselves very strongly with this new church I was speaking about. So they tend to have gated, not quite gated communities, but communities more apart, their own schools and so forth.
Okay.
That's not our stuff, but
okay.
That's how they go.
Okay, sure. Thank you for explaining that without too much partisanship.
No, they also do wonderful things. And they're fine people.
Yeah.
It's just not the path I take.
Sure. Final question. What are your immediate hopes and vision for Church of the Good Shepherd here in Kitchener?
Oh, I have a dream for this church that has never changed. My dream for this church is people of every age and size and type and color, the long, the short, the tall, you name it. Just everybody here learning, growing, sharing together. A church that's a light for its community, and a place where the community can find light and find hope. And a church where the walls are porous that way. People flow in and out all the time. That's what I hope.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, John, for taking the time to speak with me this morning, and also to our videographer, Reverend Alison Longstaff, who I'm good friends with. And
me too.
And it's been a real pleasure to attend several services here, and also some small groups here, small group lessons.
Glad you've come.
Exactly. So
everyone is welcome.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.